This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Cross Woodcock. And a superb goal from Barrett. Oh, the keeper saves it, and there's McGregor. There's a goal. Paul McGregor.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do.
Getting a shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello and welcome to this episode of Red Side of the Trent as we look ahead to our final away game of the Europa League stage, as it is nowadays, as we face Sporting Braga at Portugal on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock UK time, this one. I'm delighted to be joined by Dave Pereira, the former host of That Braga podcast and Braga fan based in Boston in the USA. So Dave, thank you for coming on. How are you, mate?
I appreciate it. I'm doing well, excited. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get straight into it then. So obviously a lot of Forest fans probably won't know much about Braga at all. So can you just give us kind of a brief history of the club, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we've been around for 105 years. We just had our anniversary yesterday, actually. And so 105 years. And the Portuguese league, like most people know, is dominated by three teams. And over the last 22 years, Braga's done a significant job growing their club, getting to a point where they're perennial Europa League appearances. They've had a final back in 2011, I believe it was. And we've done probably as good as it can based on the population of a country and the growth financially. It's doing very well compared to other clubs their size. And we're just looking to continuously grow, take a step up, and go from there. But I think right now we're in a little bit of a transition point as far as the club goes now. Increasing in size, talent, academy investment. So they've done a phenomenal job over the last 22 years since this president has taken over.
Yeah, because it's like Porto, Sporting Club, and Benfica, isn't it? The kind of the big three in Portugal. Well, kind of like a cartel, isn't it? As we've got obviously in England with your Manchester United, your Liverpool, etc. How far away would you say Braga are from kind of breaking the dominance of them, or are you quite a way away, would you say?
It's tough, right? There's a desire there from not just the club and its fans. There's a desire there from the country, I think, to see this reign of just three clubs be broken. The disparity in money in Portugal, as far as like television rights distribution, is a big issue right now. It might be, I would say, the top three clubs probably make, and this is no exaggeration, 20 times as much as the next tier of teams make. And again, not counting merchandise and all that sales, that's all on their own. But from television rights distribution, we don't have a centralized TV deal. Each club has to negotiate their own television rights deal with the TV station directly. So as you can imagine, a smaller club having less leverage than one of the big clubs, and obviously that plays a big part in it. You're not having anybody negotiate as a whole for its product. So each team, you're limited to what type of fan base you bring in. It's a big topic right now. The government actually got involved and said you have about, I think, till the end of the 2028 season to come up with a centralized plan, and that's a big issue considering the big clubs don't want to lose their share of the revenue. So to break that's going to be hard. They've done a phenomenal job growing. They've been in numerous finals, whether it's domestic competitions, league competitions, league cups, Portugal cups. I wouldn't say they've challenged for a title in about 15 years, down to the last few weeks of the season. But it's hard. You got to hope the other teams also have a bad year and you're having a great one. So financially, it's very difficult. But again, you know how that goes in football.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what we've got in England with, the big six in England: Liverpool, Arsenal, City, United, Chelsea, and Spurs. They take up the majority of the league's revenue, and the other 14 clubs, as it is in England, are kind of, scraping. Everyone's got PSR troubles. It's over here, and the big six, as they call it, kind of can spend what they want. So it's very similar to kind of that. But so those who watch Euro 2004, which is my favourite Euro, so I remember Braga's stadium, the Estadio Municipal, with the two stands and the cliff edge at one end. Can you just tell us a bit more about your stadium, if that's okay?
Yeah, it was built for the Euro. Braga had the Estádio 1º de Maio, which is centrally located in the city, which was, I think once they moved, when the Euro was built and they got the new stadium, and I think it lost a little bit of it's outside of there's no real public transportation there beside buses, no trains that run there. A little harder to get to. It's a beautiful stadium. The cliff there is, again, the images of it are phenomenal. The club lost a bid when it moved there. It holds about 33,000 fans. It is something to go see once or twice, but if you go week in, week out, and it's a pretty cold place as far as no wind, nothing to block the wind, nothing. But it's a hell of a stadium built more for architecture than it was for football fans. I know that.
Something
to be a downer on it, but
it's given a torrential rain, I think it has in Braga. So it'll probably be a cold one. So for our fans who are travelling, myself included, I think we wrap up warm, etc. Just tell us a bit more about yourself. How come you started supporting Braga? What's the reasons behind you supporting them?
So my father and my mother are both from Portugal. My father's about 40 minutes north. They immigrated to America in the 70s, and we've always gone back to see family and relatives. And I'd say I was fortunate enough that one of the summers I went back, Braga happened to be in that the European run that they made the finals in. So you get a little bit of the buzz. Your family members are talking about it more, and I was just somebody who never really grasped onto any of the bigger three teams, which dominate in merchandise and fan base. And so it was kind of just growing up in America, you have that hometown aspect to it. You support your hometown teams, and being as that my father was about 35 minutes north of Braga, it was just easy to grasp and fall in love. And then when you start following them as the internet got easier because they didn't televise Braga games unless they played one of the major clubs, and you had to listen to it on the radio. Became easier to follow it through my 20s. So it's just ever since then I've been attached to it, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I get to go back twice a year, get to catch anywhere from 2 to 4 games a year. Was it a lot tougher to take that final loss in 2011 because it was to Porto, obviously being a fellow team from Portugal? It's funny, right? You're happy to make a final, but there's just that constant superiority, almost that complex you have there. We're like, it's got to be them. Like you could have ran into anybody at that time, and it would have felt like, all right, we got a shot, But I got a good team that time, very well defensively. They had an opportunity to win, but that always stings a little bit. And I'll forever say that Falcao was offsides on his goal, and I'll forever hold on to that. So I don't think many or any Forest fans would have visited Braga before. I'm sure a few might have been to Porto, being the more, I know you won't want to hear it, but like major city in that kind of region. I mean, can you tell us a bit more about Braga as the city? Beautiful architecture. Absolutely influenced by the Romans. It's a phenomenal, not far out. You're talking probably from Porto. It's got to be 45 minutes, I'd assume. I'm not sure how. You staying when you just mentioned you were going over there, right? You staying in Braga? You staying in Porto? Yeah, so one night in each. So I fly tomorrow evening, land in Porto at 8 o'clock. So I'm staying the night in Porto. We'll spend probably
until around midday in Porto on the Thursday, the day of the game, and then head up to Braga. And then I'm staying on the Thursday night in Braga, so hopefully get a few hours in both, like to have a look around.
Nice. Yeah. So there's typical historical stuff. The Bom Jesus Church and the chapels are there, and then there's plenty of historical stuff to do around there. Restaurants are good. Around the stadium specifically, there's not much. So you got to go into the center of town and then work your way to the stadium after. But I think you should have a phenomenal time, given that it's supposed to be torrential rain, I think, through tomorrow into Thursday. Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to enjoy, but I'm sure you'll figure something out.
I know. I was hoping it'd be, a little bit warmer than it is in the UK, but it's not to be on this occasion. We're probably bringing the weather with us. That's probably the problem. So the season so far, I believe you're 5th at the minute in the Primera Liga, isn't it? I actually followed your game on Sunday evening at Tondela, where you went down to 10 men but scored a penalty in the last minute. I saw the penalty on the betting apps in England. How would you sum up your season so far from a league perspective?
Yeah, it's easy to just say disappointing. Disappointing based on, I think they have enough talent to be sitting in. They should be fighting for third place at this moment, and they're just so far off at the turn of the league calendar. Going back to last season, if you take that whole thing into a full view, they did such a terrible job the year prior in the transfer window. So they were to go back a year prior to that, they were in the Champions League. They were in a group with Real Madrid, Napoli, themselves, and I forget who the other club was.
Was it Union Berlin?
It was Berlin. It was Berlin. And so making it to the Champions League that season, they brought in a more senior squad, brought in some veteran players. Obviously, you don't want to go there and just get blown out of the water. And they did pretty well, but they turned over the coaching to Arthur Jorge, who ended up leaving to go to Botafogo, and I just don't think his experience was there for what the club was looking for at that time. But regardless, that season ended, and they completely dropping out of the Champions League back to Europa. They sold off to cut in salary. And then they hired a coach from Oroca, which is another club in Portugal, who had such a promising year the year prior. They hired him before that season even ended. And he possibly had the worst transfer window I think this club had in maybe its history. Unloading talent as far as, let's go down to, in the same window, they got rid of, I want to say, Al Muzrati, Alvaro Jallo. They let go of Andre Castro, which is a major part of our midfield at the time. Abel Ruiz ended up moving on. They sold Tormenta, which was, I'm not going to say he was a phenomenal center back, but reliable, had speed, had characteristics necessary to play at a European level. So there was the sell-off of the club was pretty vast, and then they didn't bring in any talent to take over those spots, and they're dealing with that now. So after such a down year last year, where they fired that manager after 2 league games, and then the 4 qualifying for Europa, and gave the job back to Carlos Carvalhal, who I'm sure UK fans are familiar with. And he, at the end of the year, he says this was probably the most difficult job he ever had. And watching that team last season, they were just so poor. There was no offense, no creativity, no talent to get any more out of it. So this year, again, it was hopes of, all right, you had a down year, let's build this club back up. They somehow qualified for Europa League, and I don't think they had the talent to do it, but they did. You can't fix the summer transfer window in the way they had it. It was so poor. It was terrible. And so coming into this year, they said they needed an entirely new change. They went after and got a first-time head coach in Carlos Vicens, who was Manchester City's assistant, or Pep Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City, probably 5 years, 7 years within the Man City system. So if you watch this team now, they play such a possession style of football. Very minimal risks taken to get into the attacking third. He loves possession. I mean, some of the stats are like 70%. 70% possession rate at the end of a game, and you're like, oh, that's great, but the amount of opportunities created, is it worth it? So they definitely have a unique style of play, or a style of play now that I'm sure people are familiar with. When you watch, you guys just played Arsenal, and I couldn't stop but look at it and say we're very similar to that style of play, where you'll take it and push it down to a wing, and the cross won't come in. He'll cut it back and try to dribble it into the net.
Okay. Is that transferred into the Europa League as well, that style of play?
It's done better in Europa League than it has done in Portugal.
Okay.
Such a difficult job when teams drop the lines, put everybody in front of the goalie and defend, and we don't have the talent 1-on-1, 1v1, especially on the outsides, to go and attack a central defender or a right back, and it's a difficult time for them to even want to shoot from the outside. So it's very odd. But in Europe, where the game's open more, teams are significantly more open to attacking and in numbers even, other than like Portugal, where it tends to be a draw is completely fine with a lot of Portuguese clubs. It better suits this team that's structured as a unit rather than individual talent.
Yeah, because you've had a good Europa League campaign. You lie 7th, so you're in the automatic qualifications as it stands on 13 points. You must be really pleased with that.
I'm a little shocked by it, but I am very pleased. Very pleased. And it's somewhat fortunate. You caught teams at very poor times. You caught a very poor Celtic team, a Feyenoord team that's not doing it very well, who made a good amount of changes going into that match. So we've done pretty well. We took a bad loss at home, 4-3 against Genk. But overall, I'm extremely pleased and with the European campaign at the moment.
Yeah, because I was looking through obviously the results, and you started like qualifying. Was it in July? You second qualifying round, so you played six games before actually getting into the league stage as well.
Yeah, which is, again, it's especially when you got a new coach, an entirely new system to try to implement, new team practically in a sense, as far as the defensive area is concerned. It was very difficult, and it showed. It was very poor. If you go back and look at some of those games, it was such poor quality where everybody was already questioning whether Wiesens was the right man for the job or not, and handkerchiefs were already being waved in the stadium. It was tough, but they got through it and they turned the corner. Fortunate for them.
Obviously, since we drew, you have kind of followed all the teams a bit who were going to play. So, something what was a shock result, which I saw, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, a cup loss to, is it Fafe?
Yeah, last week they lost to Faf.
Yeah, from the third division. Was that purely down because the side was rotated, or was it just a cup shock?
The side was rotated. So 3 days prior, we played in the League Cup final against our rivals, Vitória Guimarães, which is another.
I saw they won that.
They did win it, and kudos to them. Got to give it to them. We had beat Benfica in the semis and then played Vitória, and I think we were still very down on the result. I think a loss in a cup final holds heavy. However, coach did make 7 changes going into that match, and I mean, you played a team that your B team had beaten 1-0.
I put that on our pod tweet that your B team was actually above them in the league, because I had a look. It actually made me chuckle that bit.
It was something else. The timing of that game couldn't couldn't have been worse. However, there is no excuse. It's such, especially with the winning the Portuguese Cup, the Taça de Portugal gives you direct qualification to Europa League.
Yeah.
That's what hurts the most. It's like you would have eliminated, given yourself a chance to continue on, and winning that cup allows you to not have to start in July.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I seen they got is it a team called Trent in the semi-finals? I mean, they're in the second division, aren't they? So you'd expect to really beat them as well, and then you're obviously one game away from automatic qualification.
Yeah, that's given how it drops with. I mean, who knows how it would have with Braga in there, but with Porto and Sporting drawing each other, you had a free path to the final.
Yeah.
But it was a very poor performance, and you guys to go into your club, you guys didn't have a real great performance against Wrexham, right? From what I understand.
Yeah, well, we was very similar. Rotated the side. Didn't go well first half. Ended up half time at 2-0 down. The manager then decided to bring on more of the first teamers who were playing every week. Got it back to 2-1, then went 3-1 down, but then got it back to 3-2 straight away, and then up to 3-3. Goes to extra time where really we should have pushed more, in my opinion. Goes to penalties, and as you know, penalties are a bit of a lottery. But they actually missed first, and we didn't capitalise on it, and then we ended up missing our last penalty, which was a shame, really. But with how we're doing in the league, and obviously Europa League, because this is all new for us, it's quite sad to say this, but the FA Cup was like the last priority of the three. So I don't think many fans was too fussed about. We all don't want to lose, but not like overly fussed about it, unfortunately. But you mentioned about Braga's style of play being possession based because you've got a Pep Guardiola disciple in the dugout now. What formation do you usually play?
I'd say consistently more times than none. He's done a 3-4-3. He has, against smaller opponents, tried to just do a 4 at the back, but they'll still try to construct with a 3 at the back system by dropping the defensive midfielder and setting up so they'll still attack in a 3-4-3. But I don't see that happening in this. He's going to probably go with a traditional 3-4-3 and drop the fullbacks and drop the wing backs to get 5 in the back. My guess. I have my own thoughts on how our team's constructed, and I don't think he even likes it, but he has no choice. I think he would prefer to play certain people. For instance, we we spent about 11 million on a young lad. I forget where he came from Polish club. Mario Dorgeles, who's playing right wing back, who for everything prior to this, he was an attacking midfielder. So he tends to cut in on his left foot and attack. However, he just doesn't sit. I don't think the system really works for him. We have him pretty much against the line, and he just doesn't have that natural instinct to be a winger. So he always wants to push in. He doesn't. We don't really cross the ball into the box. We don't have a striker at the moment. So that's the formation. I could go into tactics, but there's an issue there with the players.
Okay. Someone who we was linked with in the summer, because we get linked with everybody, was a player from yourselves called Roger Fernandez, 20-year-old winger. He's now ended up in Saudi. Was you disappointed to see him kind of go out to Saudi, or do you think he could have gone on to bigger things with, I don't know, an English Premier League club or La Liga? What did you make of him?
I don't. It's tough for us to turn down 30-something million, especially for an academy player where you're not going to be given the solidarities into the smaller clubs. And I was not saddened necessarily to see him leave. Happy for him. He comes from a background that I'm sure his family is very pleased with the way it's turned out financially for him. I do have a problem with it came after the Portuguese transfer window closed. So there was no way to get a substitute. That was the concerning part.
Yeah, I think once your transfer window shuts, that should mean even if another transfer window is open, they shouldn't be able to sign players from that clubs.
I agree with
It's
you.
not really fair because they can't replace them, like you just said. So if like 2 transfer windows are open, and that's fine, they can trade. But if one's short, then no, that shouldn't be.
I agree with you
really.
on that one. And it's my issue with the Turkish league, and it just stays open, it seems like, for months.
Yeah. Well, we usually unload
Right.
players we don't want to these type of leagues. So I
Right,
guess
right.
I'm contradicting myself in a way there, but in an ideal world. But who would you say are the players to look out for on your side who could be a real thorn in Forest team, you think, on Thursday?
Probably our biggest threat, and I will say our best player is Rodrigo Salazar, Uruguayan international player, but he will not be playing due to his red card he received. Received a direct red. Wasn't this past match? It was the one prior, so he'll be missing this match against Nottingham. So it's difficult. It's going to be interesting because he's the most creative player. He's the only player that would attack 1v1 and go at a defense. It's going to be really, really hard, I think, depending on what you guys do. And I got a couple of questions for you regarding whether your squad will rotate. But our individuals are just so passive right now. The players we're going to put out there on the front three. Paul Victor is a very young striker. I like him. Very technical. Came from the Barcelona. Came from Barcelona, but he's still very young. 23 years old. Our most physical striker is out injured. He broke his foot a while back, so I don't. He was not back for about another month, I'd say. And Ricardo Horta was a club legend.
Yeah,
he needs he phenomenal player. He's pushing 31 years old already, so his desire to attack 1v1 is gone. But when he's allowed to freelance, he's just so smart. He finds open spots and pockets right in front of the net, and as long as you can serve up, he does a phenomenal job putting the ball on net. And he probably one of the only players with in natural goal scoring ability on the club at this moment.
The only player, when I look through your squad, who probably will be familiar to Forest fans is the now 39-year-old João Moutinho. How's he getting on with you?
I'd say it's up and down across the fan base. I think everybody likes him as a player. They understand what he means for Portuguese football. Nobody questions his skill level. It's tough, though, because the guy just got so many miles on him. You know, those legs they're there for 60 minutes, and I think there is a noticeable drop-off at this point. But over recent weeks, it's indisputable. He's been the motor of the midfield at this moment. The creativity passes through him. He's allowed to move back up the pitch now. We're playing with Florian Grilic, is an Austrian international who's kind of playing the more defensive midfielder position, allowing him to go up and be creative. So it helps. In the beginning of the year, we had, I'd say, Moutinho playing more of a defensive role, and a young French kid by the name of Gorby playing the attacking role, but it didn't work out. It just wasn't productive. And I think the coach finally realized it and has made the switch over the last few weeks.
Yeah, because he so this would have been 2021. So we was then bottom of the second tier, and we drew Wolves in the League Cup in England. And we literally played like kids, and João Moutinho played for Wolves that night, and he just literally dictated the whole game. It was so easy for him, and they beat us 4-0, which was, to be fair, expected because, like we said, we were heavily rotating. We were bottom of the second tier at the time. So, I'm not sure how much you've seen of Forest this season, or even last season. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on us?
It's funny because I think most Portuguese football fans, there's that whole allure of the Premier League, right? So everybody in the world will tune into a match or two. The Portuguese fans tend to follow, especially when the managerial appointments. If there's a Portuguese coach there, the Portuguese tend to put that game on TV, and the fans will take a look at it. And we've had a pretty good run with Marco Silva, Nuno Espírito Santo. And so last year, I think more people were watching Forest just to keep an eye on it, just to see him and his interactions with them. As far as this year go, you guys did not start off off well at all. I do have a question though. Do you think it had to do with the with the European competitions going on simultaneously, or?
No, not really. I mean, we all expected a drop off as fans because of more games. You're obviously wanting to, it's not like as well, I guess, the FA Cup and League Cup where I think fans wouldn't be too bothered if they kind of got knocked on the head a bit. Whereas this is our first European campaign since 1995, 96 season. So, like for a generation like myself, we've never seen European football at Forest. So we all wanted to take this seriously. We spent 200 million in the summer, but because of what's happened off the pitch with the change of managers, which is, we're on his third manager of the season, none of the players really have settled who we've signed, some of them for big money. None of them have really, some of them have shown in odd times, odd glimpses, but not, I'd say, continuously settled really, because they're getting asked by 3 different managers in 6 months to do different things. And it's been bit of a car crash really. So the Europa League has kind of been the saving grace for us as fans, because we can kind of take a breath and forget about Premier League for a minute and enjoy these trips into Europe. But there has been times when we've played Europa League games, because we've got important Premier League games afterwards, we're like, fans are like debating on Twitter, etc., whether we should kind of fully rotate, you know what I mean? So
do you feel
go on.
Sorry, I apologize. Do you feel like you guys, the English game has its own level of physicality? Do you feel like it suits you guys to obviously have to compete at that level, then drop to a level where people tend to play more, I'd say, more technical and more reserved? How does that work for this, the way your team's currently constructed?
I mean, so our first away game was Real Betis away, which was like a proper barometer. So I was like, well, these are going to be one of the best teams in the competition. Obviously, like I said, it's his first European game in 30 years, and we went 1-0 down early on, and it was like, right, well, this is what it's going to be like. And then we equalised and went ahead in the first half, and then we absolutely battered them for probably like a 15-20 minute period. Could not get that third goal we should have done. And then in the end, we drew 2-2. So it was like, right, we can compete here. We've just gone to one of the best sides in the tournament away and should have won, really. And then it all kind of went to pieces the week after, because we had FC Midtjylland at home, who everybody expected us to beat. They were 8-1 shots with the bookies, and we lost 3-2 to them, deservedly so, under Ange Postecoglou. And then we've kind of, we beat Malmo, who were, they were utterly dreadful. They didn't even have a touch in our box that game. Beat Porto.
You played Porto, right? Yeah.
Yeah, which was 2 penalties, which was a very tight game, to be fair. They had a goal disallowed at 1-0, which no one kind of saw the VAR disallowed it. That was a really tight game, but we obviously, did the better of that. Beat Utrecht last time out 2-1, which was late on, which was a good result, but a result we expected to, really. And the other disappointing one is we had Sturm Graz away, which we drew 0-0, but we had a lot of injuries at the time, and we actually missed a penalty in that game. So we kind of feel, I guess, as fans, that we're probably like a couple of points down on where we should be. So I was probably looking to get to this stage and thinking, you guys would get a point. We'd beat Ferencváros at home, which is his last game next week, and then that'd get us in the top 8, whereas now we probably need to win both, I feel, to get in the top 8.
Since, and I might be wrong here, when Sean Dyche was appointed, he was right before Porto?
That was his first game as manager.
That was his first.
Yeah.
How do you think your club's developed from there? Do you think they've improved, or was the system change dramatic?
They improved from the Ange. Nobody wanted Ange. Yeah, he didn't win a game in 8 games. Results-wise, he improved. It's tough because they're both. Ange is a very attacking manager, where Sean Dyche is built similar to Nuno. It's like defence first, and we'll build from the back. So he started really well. Obviously beat Porto, which was a historic win for us. We got some really good wins in the league. We beat Liverpool away. beat Tottenham at home, and then we kind of got the ship straight, and it's like, right, can we push on now? And then we had a really bad Christmas period. Thankfully beat Utrecht away, which was good. And then we beat West Ham in a crunch game. Obviously lost to Wrexham, which, you know, and then we've got a good point against Arsenal. So we're just trying to find some consistency. That's the issue. So we're hoping, starting with yourselves, because we've got some fixtures in the Premier League against bottom half sides coming up, that we can, you know, find some consistency really and avoid this playoff and get us up the table a little bit.
Given the current situation with the couple, I believe you had a probably, I don't know how you look at that draw you just had with Arsenal. I'm sure to get a point out of it's very important. What do you feel your manager does knowing you have Brentford away, I believe? I might be wrong. I think it's Brentford away.
Yeah, on Sunday, yeah.
How do you envision him lining up for this, saying, I don't know what your squad availability is. You have some players I feel like you've probably been running them like crazy. I think your left back has about 30 something matches.
Yeah, Nico Williams, he's very durable. Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think he rotates for this? And I think that'll be major for us because we have that shock ability, especially in Europe. We need it. We need a big performance.
Yeah, I do think he'll rotate a little bit, not full. I'd expect probably from maybe half a dozen changes, but we've got players on the bench who we felt at the start of the season, you know, we could rotate. Like we've got 4 wingers, which we paid for 3 of them in the summer. We paid 30 million plus on 3 of them, and 1 didn't even make the Europa League squad, Omari Hutchinson. Such was the kind of chaos really at the start of the season. So we feel like Douglas Luiz, who, no disrespect to Braga, would probably walk into Braga's side. You know, he's been a Brazilian international, played over 200 games in the Premier League. He'll be coming in as rotation, for example, on Thursday. So, yeah, we'll probably, I'd say, half a dozen changes, but the team will look on paper strong enough to win the game, we feel. So, yeah, but I don't think he'll go full rotation. I think because his aim will be to win the game because, like I said earlier, it avoids them 2 extra games then in February for the playoff. Yeah,
which is one of the reasons why I think Braga have to go for this. I don't think if we don't get 3 points here, it's going to be very difficult based on the other fixtures that are happening over the next 2 matches.
What's your last fixture, the last match week?
I think we're going to Go Ahead Eagles away.
Go Ahead,
Go Ahead Eagles. But I think we're sitting in 7th or 8th right now, and just the way the other fixtures match up, it's going to be real tight. And based on our domestic schedule during that knockout rounds, which is, I think we're playing both Vitória de Guimarães and I want to say Gil Vicente, which is sitting in 4th, and then we'll be playing the 6th between the match days of the playoff round. So winning, at least getting 4 to 6 points is almost necessary. The way it's wild because I think we're having a pretty good campaign, and I don't see if we lose this how we make it into that direct qualifications, which has its effect domestically.
Just to come off, you mentioned Gil Vicente there. They sold their star striker to West Ham this window. West Ham, obviously, the team at the minute we're kind of battling relegation with. Do you see him as? Was it Pablo? I think his name is. Do you see him as Premier League quality?
He has I think a lot of teams in Portugal look like, okay, we're probably going to have to pony up some money to get this guy. I don't think you could have said to anybody before January that he was going to go right to the Prem for 20 million. And that's also just the reality of the Prem, right? You guys can spend 15 million on some project player. And that, for us, that guy has to start and produce. Yeah. So it's just a different thing. Nobody would have thought. I don't think he's ready at 21. He obviously has a lot to offer. He just has a knack for goal. But I just can't imagine he has that effect right now to be able to help. And it probably shows because I think West Ham went out and got another striker.
Yeah, Castellanos from yeah.
I think I would have to say that it's safer to just say this is a project for them.
Okay,
20 million for a project.
One player we've got in common. I don't know if you can remember him, Willy Bolly.
Willy Bolly was probably, and it's funny, it was the last time I think I remember saying a Braga defense that could stop anybody. He won a Taça Portugal with us before we sold him to Porto, and then he went on to Wolves. But yeah, so we have Willy Bolly in common. Yeah. And I don't know what his availability is.
So we brought him in the first season we come up. We only paid like 3 million for him from Wolves, and he was kind of brought in as a backup, really. But whenever he'd played, he was pretty solid, like you say. He was reliable. Obviously, when Nuno come in, because he had him at Wolves, he was kind of like wouldn't play much, but was like Nuno's kind of man. I guess like he gave him a year extension this year, and I think he's only played. He come on at Betis away, didn't even touch the ball, funnily enough, because I remember someone on the Forest Twitter doing a heat map and basically like him walking off and then walking on like so I think he's only played against Swansea in the cup, what we've got knocked out of, but he's not played since then. He was included in his Europa League squad, and a young centre-back who was signed from Botafogo, Jai Kuna, was left out ahead of him, which didn't go down really well. So he'll probably leave in the summer. He will leave in the summer, or even this January, because he's out of contract. But yeah, he won't be involved, I'd imagine. He might travel for the bench, but that'll be about it. And then finally, mate, just after we've chatted all about that, have you got a prediction for Thursday night? You can have a head and a heart one if you want.
Given our last performances with English clubs, I think we drew 3-3 with Leicester City. It was the last time I can recall. And then we drew 3-3 with Wolves. I'm going to go 3-3.
3-3.
Let's make it a shooter. It's just somehow we do very well in Europe over the years. And I think I'm not sure how he's going to line up. I'm assuming he's going to play conservative, but every time I believe that, it shocks me. So what the heck? Let's go 3-3.
Okay. Jesus, that'll be a fun one. Well, thank you, Dave, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I wish you best of luck for Thursday evening.
Yeah, you too. Safe travels as well. I do have one more question for you.
Go on, of course.
Who has more to lose on this, as far as where your team is? Because we're in a tough spot right now, given our Portuguese Cup loss, and our performances as of late have not been good. But you guys are also, I think, in a very difficult situation for your own reality. Who has more to lose?
I'd probably say us, because of the position we're in. Like I look at like you could probably lose this game and then go ahead Eagles away, and I think that'd be enough to get you in the top 8 personally. Whereas with us, I think we've got to win both, or at least at the very minimum get a point here and then beat Ferencváros at home. So I'd say us. I think if you guys got a point from this, you'd probably think that'll probably keep you in the top 8, and then you think, right, well, we'll go away to go ahead Eagles and Netherlands and beat them, and then we're in the top 8. So yeah, I'd say us personally.
Yeah, Sean Dyson, an interesting spot.
Yeah,
interesting spot.
Yeah, we just winning breeds confidence, as the saying, isn't it? So we just got to keep winning games. I mean, if you ask me what would I prefer, to beat you guys or beat Brentford on Sunday, I think most Forest fans would probably say Brentford because of the predicament we're in, but we want to win both ideally.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, because it wouldn't shock me for the squad rotation, because it looks like even if you win the last match, you get through into the top 24. That's to advance, and you can kind of hang your hat on that. Like, well, we advanced in Europe, and I'm sure you'll be favored in whatever match you get drawn with. So it wouldn't shock me to see a rotation here, knowing the situation you're in.
Yeah,
I don't know who your second lines are. Is Igor Jesus, who's we're familiar with just because Botafogo, and Arthur Jorge was their coach at the time,
Yeah.
and like there is a familiarity for us with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be Sells will be in goal. He played on Saturday against Arsenal. Defence, I'd imagine Savona might come in, so he's his backup right back. I think Nico Williams will stay in at left back because Zinchenko's going now to Ajax, and he's been a waste of time, really. But it wouldn't surprise me that him and Ola Aina get a half each at left back, because Ola Aina is our first choice right back, but he's just coming back from injury, so he's kind of building up his fitness. Usually his centre-back pairing is Milenkovic and Murillo. I'd imagine Milenkovic will play. I think probably be partnered by Morato, who you probably know from Benfica. He does have a mistake in him, but he's actually been okay, touch wood, in the Europa League so far. Centre mids, I think will change both. I think Yates, who is our club captain, will come in, and Douglas Luiz will be the other. In front of him, wouldn't surprise me if Dylan Backward played, who wasn't even in the squad at the weekend, but we spent, I think, 35 million euros on him as a right winger, but he's just coming back from injury. The number 10 position, so James McAtee is the kind of backup number 10, who we spent like 25 million on, but he's not impressed in the games he's played, so it wouldn't surprise if Gibbs White keeps his place because of that reason. The left side would either be Hudson-Odoi or Ndoye, and then the striker is either going to be Jesus, he's played so much football, or Dyche did bring Ndoye on late on against Arsenal as a makeshift striker, but he is a winger, so yeah, there'll be some rotation, but I do think it'll be like half and half is what I expect. But like we say, we all felt at the start of the season that this squad could be rotated. We could make half a dozen changes, and you'd look at it and think, well, that team's actually quite good. Like, we played Aston Villa, who was battling for Champions League with at the end of last season. This was when they had them games with PSG, and they made 8 changes in the Premier League game against us. And we looked at their team, and it was still really good, and they beat us 2-1. So we was like, we kind of need to get to that level where we're looking at his team after making half a dozen changes and thinking that team's solid. So that's what I'd imagine will happen on Thursday, personally.
Well, let's see. I'm intrigued with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm intrigued by who will play as well. But that's my opinion on it, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. Again, appreciate it. And like I say, best of luck on Thursday, okay?
You too. Safe travels, buddy.
No problem. Thank you, mate.